The northern part of the province has been called off. Let's go live to that briefing to clarify essentially what happened.
Maybe before we start, I guess sithi nje mhlawumbe ukuba ngalena sebenzele ngali kakhulu kwabasebenzayo nalapha emva umuntu omkhulu besicela nisisize sesingaqala ne now firstly let us take this opportunity to greet all of you who have been here to cover the provincial conference which didn't start or which didn't take place. From the beginning, we want to sincerely apologize to the ANC national chairperson in particular, but to the officials and the NEC as a whole for what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday, where the national chair could not address, embarrasses us as the ANC in Kwazulu-Natal, but it's foreign from it's foreign to the tradition of the ANC. In our discussion here, it has transpired that there is a level of frustration from ANC members about what is alleged to be divisive and interference from some leaders of the ANC at a national level who peddles divisions in the ANC in the province. And by association, national officials get affected as if it is directed to them, but it is some comrades who have gone public speaking, saying a number of things in public, some comrades who are alleged to be meeting with comrades, and therefore the national chair was just a victim of that by association of that, and he was just associated, and there is nothing that was against him specifically as a person. And we apologize to him, we apologize to the entire ANC membership for what happened. We are going to seek an audience with the national officials to present ourselves to them and apologize on what transpired. We have taken, with regard to what is happening, we have taken a view that we're not going to have a consultative conference which we thought should proceed, but we rather spent the early opportunity we had today, we spend that opportunity in discussing issues that are facing the ANC in the province. And based on the discussion from branches that were here, we are going to consolidate the report that is going to be presented to the national leadership. Key among that is the fact that the tendency of taking ANC to court is becoming fashionable. We are of a view that number of issues that were in court are issues that have been processed in the ANC, especially by the national leadership. We're all here, who were here, agreed that it was unfortunate that the court order was granted while the ANC had not been given time to respond. The papers were served and the ANC only received papers. Papers were registered with the court around 2:30, if not 3:20, while the court was sitting at 3 on the matter. So the ANC had no opportunity to respond to those court papers. The ANC rather said it brings its members to respond in a form of going to the stand and have witnesses, which the senior counsel representing the ANC pleaded with the judge that the ANC be offered an opportunity to present its case through taking the stand, taking an oath and present its case. The judge denied that and granted an order. We are mandated by delegates who were here to take up that issue and to ensure that it is taken up to a point where we seek we take legal action on that conduct, because that conduct undermines the principles of natural justice. Now, that's what the meeting agreed on. The meeting of delegates, it agreed that it undermined the principle of natural justice, where you need to hear both sides. And we must be clear that the ANC had sent 2 people to the court to be there and to respond. I was there as a coordinator who have answers on almost all issues, but from the point of appeals and all of that, there was a member of provincial appeals team who also participated as an observer during the National Dispute Resolutions Committee, when the National Dispute Resolutions Committee was processing appeals. So there is nothing that we could have not answered. This also contradicts the judgment also, and that contradicts the manner in which other cases have been handled. There was once a case on the eve of a Empangeni regional conference where some comrades took the ANC to court. Because the ANC was not given an opportunity to respond, then the legal team of the ANC pleaded that we take a stand and respond. We did that, were questioned, we provided answers and also evidence on what we were saying. The court said no, proceed with the conference. Now, we wonder why the judge took a decision to deny the ANC an opportunity to respond for itself. Firstly, while the ANC was not even given enough time to prepare papers, but while the ANC was offering itself to say, we are here, we will take a stand, we will respond. We strongly feel that was undermining the principles of natural justice. But we don't want to fall into temptation of believing that there is interference with the judiciary. We respect judiciary and our judicial system in this country. However, the matter will be tested going forward. We are going to explore avenues to not challenge. Firstly, we are clear to challenge the conduct of the judge. We believe that it undermines the independence of judiciary. So we will look on that. We don't want to say this is the approach we will take for now. Now, the second issue, or the next issue after that, is what then will happen from here. The view from the meeting, which is the view that we have agreed on, is that one, we will respond, we will engage with a court, seek to apply for an early return to court to present ourselves and present our case on matters raised. So we'll be applying for that on Monday. That's what we've been instructed by delegates to do. Secondly, we will be engaging with outstanding branches that have not convened BGMs and engage with some of the comrades who have raised issues, finalize those issues, go to regional conferences where we are ready, in Hirikwala, Lower South Coast, and Moses Mapita. we are all in unison, as we were all in unison, that some of these elements are beginning to reflect on as ill discipline within the ANC, and they must be characterized as such. Now, with regard to the provincial conference, having cleared all of the issues that were raised in court through organizational processes and through the court process, we will want to convene a conference. We will see when, but the mandate given by branches, which will be decided by the national officials and the NEC, was that we should convene in 6 weeks. We were not going to present this thing to you, but we knew that it will be leaked, and it's better if it's come from us direct. I think that is what we can say for now. But the greater work that also all delegates appreciated, its efforts that have been achieved on unity in the ANC. I think all delegates appreciated that we seem to be working toward unity, and that must be consolidated further. We must not regress from what we have attained already on building unity. The emphasis on ensuring that we convene the conference early, comrades were emphasizing that, saying we have to have a solid structures of the ANC as soon as possible, because we have an elections campaign, and therefore we cannot allow this situation to continue as it is. I think those are issues that were discussed, and that is the way forward. But I think Diema, Comrade Mike will add, and Comrade Notawe will also add.
Well, by and large, I think let's welcome members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Look, by and large, I think we want to underscore the point that whereas yesterday, immediately after the judgment, emotions ran high amongst delegates. We were able then to meet after the adjournment last night. We discussed with the heads of delegations, who are the regional chairpersons and regional secretaries. And by this morning, we started the meeting in a different atmosphere altogether. It's important for us to underscore that. And the fact that we were able to discuss the issues that we have discussed, they were discussed under a very cordial atmosphere. And to the extent that the way forward that is being presented to you is coming out of the realization that I think, whereas yesterday people were still having the shock of the interdict, we have already digested that process by now, and hence we're able to have the clarity of thought with regard to the way forward. I just wanted to add that point and to indicate that from our side, it is important to say people had noticed that because of the emotions, when we opened the meeting last night, because we were here, people were singing and couldn't listen. As I said, it became a different story because today, when we were closing the meeting, I then closed the meeting as a convener of the PTT under a very different condition, in a very peaceful atmosphere. So we just want to indicate that we shouldn't be reading too much out of the reactions, and those reactions were caused by the fact that people all came here as delegates for a conference, and in the latter part of the day yesterday, they got to be shocked by the interdict. I thought that is important to add those elements.
Thank you very much, members of the media, for being here. I think for me the most important thing is to register the fact that as the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, and particularly as the deployees that are deployed in the province of Kwazulu-Natal from the National Executive Committee, we are a bit disappointed by the fact that the conference did not sit, but we are not despondent. I think for us it's important to say that We also want to register the fact that the last National Executive Committee of the African National Congress did give a green light on conferences to continue, including the conference of Kwazulu-Natal. So I do want to clarify that, so that as we move on, we have that clear understanding that permission for this conference to continue was actually granted by the highest structure of the organization. We will be interacting with the national officials and the National Working Committee as the deployees to map a way forward, but we are in agreement of what both the coordinator and the convener have just explained to you. And we are very confident that in the process of dealing with whatever challenges that have arisen out of the conference not taking place, we will be able to deal with them, and this conference will be reconvened before the 28th of July or the 31st of July, which is the deadline for conferences to sit of the African National Congress before we get ourselves prepared for the elections. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the leadership. We have agreed, colleagues, that will only take 5 questions, as the leadership still have to go and deal with other matters, outstanding matters. May I take hands? I take 5. Start with Tsidi, followed by Koli, Bongani, and Clive Lowe, in that order, and this young fellow, Neo. Thanks.
Thank you. Tsidi Magia from News 24. Still have 3 questions. The first one, Mama, you saying that they had the green light to go ahead with the conference. I just want to find out, there was also though like a condition almost that they can go ahead with the conference provided that all the outstanding issues were dealt with. Was the satisfaction that actually all the outstanding issues with all the difficulties were resolved before asking for this conference to sit? And then to Sita Zigalana, what happens to these members who took the party to conference? My understanding is that there were delegates who want the ANC to take stern action, saying that they frown upon people who want to take the party to court. What's going to happen to them? But in light of that, I need you to take into consideration what Becky Taylor once said, saying take the ANC to court until it starts to do things correctly. That's about it. Thank you.
Colin?
Colin Nabi, ENCA. This one is just to the leadership. Perhaps repeating that question but phrased differently. Is there a clear decision on what is to be done to the members who took the party to court and subsequently interdicted this conference? My second question has to do with the period within which this conference of KZN should sit. You've already suggested that the mandate from branches is that it should take place within 6 weeks. There's another view that perhaps this conference may only take place next year after the general election. Is that something that the branches are willing to accept? Then finally, it's a direct question, given that Mr. Sigalala, you were there at the appearance of former President Jacob Zuma court. You were there for the second time, this time around. The simple question I want to ask you is, do you deem it appropriate to continue being at these Zuma rallies, if I can call them that, given the kind of statements that are targeted, particularly at the national leadership of the ANC? Thank you.
Just want to know from the leadership, if the leadership was aware of the challenges that and the queries that come from the applicants, and if the leadership knows the names of the applicants, and if they did anything with the issues and challenges, queries that were raised by those who lodged the complaint with the court, or the complaint with the court. And secondly, if the ANC, as the respondent, will demand that the cost that were, especially that's where the money that was used in preparation for the conference, if you find that those, the applicants, they pay for it if you win?
Okay. My question is directed at you indicated in your opening speech that you're blaming partly the behavior of the delegates last night to some behavior of certain national leaders. Can you give us specific examples to say what leaders are doing or saying in order to create this environment that is
most of my questions covered, but maybe just wanted to find out, will Chairperson Gwede Mantashe be called to open the conference when again, or would you reconsider another person despite after what transpired last night?
Thank you. I had said we'll take only 5 questions. Colleagues, can I hand over to the leadership to answer to those questions?
Well, let me take one because I wasn't taking notes. Look, there is a view that comrades have with regard to comrades who have taken the ANC to court. Is that as an ANC, first and foremost, when we're approaching that matter, we will be informed by the rules of natural justice, but also informed by our own constitution. I want to start from there. In terms of the rule of natural justice, it's a matter of common cause that anyone can go to a court of law when they have a matter. And therefore the ANC cannot prevent that because the ANC is not above the rules of the natural justice. But on the one hand, we have taken our own resolution in Nasrec discouraging people taking the ANC to court. And therefore we would want to be able to approach that matter in a multi-pronged approach. First, we would like to probe the conditions under which the ANC have been taken to court by these comrades. In other words, whether their actions are mala fide in that instance. And secondly, and if they are, then they would actually be tantamount to be breaching the discipline of the ANC. And therefore the ANC will have to act on the basis of that. But secondly, we would also be able to dissect some of those issues and see how do we engage on issues if they are genuine issues of concern that needs to be dealt with, sit with those who are genuine issues and see how we deal with it. So the ANC is not going to be approaching that matter without having due regard of all these principles I've just enunciated.
Thank you very much. Sidi, there's a specific question that you have asked around the issue of whether all the outstanding issues were dealt with. I think it's important to stress that, first of all, when the ANC took a decision in January that there must be an interim structure in the province that must prepare for a provincial conference within 3 months, because that was the initial decision. What then happened was that there was also a tasking of the National Executive Committee members that was then seconded to the province to come and assist with the preparations of the conference. And as preparations were going on and then the challenges arose, structures were put in place by both the province and the national in terms of dealing with outstanding issues. And the provincial appeals team and the provincial dispute team set up and looked at those issues. And those that they couldn't resolve were then referred to the national dispute team. That national dispute team is actually chaired by Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Jesse Duarte. It is very important, therefore, to stress the fact that Comrade Jesse has spent with her team, they have spent a full week before the last NEC here dealing with outstanding issues. Immediately after the NEC of the 26th to the 28th, they came back to the province to actually deal with further outstanding issues. So from our view, the National Dispute Team had dealt with all the outstanding issues. The last meeting that they had, which they finished on the, I think on the 4th, they were in Herikwala, and on the 5th they were in Moses Mapita. That was their last meetings. So from where we are sitting, all outstanding issues were dealt with. I do want to come to the second point, even though it was not directed to me, the question, it was directed to Comrade Sihle Zikalala about his continued attendance of Comrade Zuma's court cases. I think I'm responding to it because it's an issue that was discussed by the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. And a decision was taken that anybody can go and support Comrade Jacob Zuma, but they do so in their individual capacity. Even myself, when I have the time, I could go to court. I thought it's important to say that. But obviously, I will be going in my individual capacity, not representing the African National Congress. So if therefore you really want to ask that question to Comrade Sihle, he would have been there on his individual capacity, because the African National Congress National Executive Committee did give that green light that everybody can go to court, but on their individual capacity.
No, thanks. I think I must add on the first issue that Comrade Mike has addressed, the issue of what is the view on those delegates, on those comrades. The view, generally, all delegates who are here task us that we must institute a disciplinary action against these people. We have taken the ANC to court. It's clear on that, we are clear. We will then, in doing that, check the conditions under which these comrades have taken the ANC to court. That also includes whether they had exhausted all issues internally. The fact that Pegicele said take the ANC to court up until the ANC is correct or do the right things correctly, I think with regard to that statement, I don't agree with it. And those are part of divisive statement that we always see from national leaders, that delegates have mandated us to take to the national leadership. Such a kind of statements that are peddled by leaders which undermine integrity of the ANC. Firstly, they mean that the ANC is not doing things correctly. In this case, if to be specific, the ANC Deputy Secretary General was like staying in some of the regions. Staying in Lower South Coast, Herikwala, Moses Mapita. There is a comprehensive report. And therefore, that is why the ANC branches here, that were here, were clear that we must take serious disciplinary actions on those people. The second issue, I can see that Mr. Mganga wants me to respond personal on this issue. I'll do so with respect. When I go to court, as I went yesterday, I did so as a person. Those who saw me after court will recognize that after that I had an ANC jacket. But when I was there, just wearing my coat, because I went there as Sihle, not the ANC, in line with the ANC decision. What is my view on the statements that are made, and should I continue going there? Yes, I will. Because I think it gives also us a platform to challenge those statements there. If someone says, President Zuma, you are ill-treated, we must correct it there and say, let us not use this court case of President Zuma to create unnecessary divisions in the ANC. I go there to provide support to President Zuma, former President Zuma, but also as a person, but also to use that very same space to deal with anything that is used or said, which might cause a problem that is unnecessary. So I will continue, I'll continue. Not because I appreciate statements, not because I associate myself with some of the people who are there, but I believe that also those platforms can be hijacked if the people who knows things are not there to clarify. They can be hijacked. I was not part of the last part where there was an address. I went to court only yesterday because of time. I didn't go to where others were speaking. So I think, I'm not saying I would have not gone there. That must be clear. I think we will, what is the view? The branches are clear that they need a conference now, not after elections. From us, we think it's not a question of whether we have conference now or after elections. The process is, the issue is that objectively, you need stability when you go to elections. You need a leadership with authority that has powers. Powers, not just some delegated powers. Powers from elected structures, branches of the ANC. And those are people who can then lead with full mandate the campaign. I think I've answered the question. Branches on the cost, issues of the cost implications. We're not going to answer that now. We're not submitting to court. You will see that when we submit to court. We will file our papers, and I think that's when we will deal with these issues. What are issues that we cited are divisive statements. They are divisive statements that some of the national leaders continues to do. They make in public. Those are issues that undermine hegemony in the ANC. There are strong allegations of leaders of national who goes around meeting with people in the form of factions. And those are issues that internally we must engage on. We must be thorough in engaging with those issues of NEC members who are busy creating divisions. You can't have NEC members being part of creating divisions. You can't have NEC members being part of factions in provinces. I said yesterday, if you will hear of us, especially at the level of the convener and the coordinator of the PTT, you hear that we go to regions and have factional meetings. It means we will be working against unity of the ANC. So branches have instructed us that we must engage with the national leadership on that issue, because it creates an environment that is not good where national leaders are seen to be going around. In fact, if you do that, being a national leader, you are reducing yourself. You are just reducing yourself. You go there, you meet with people in a corner, you discuss issues which you should in fact be above on. Now, we will be engaging with the national leadership on those issues. Lastly, I think we must indicate, we didn't introduce Comrade Cindy as she was joining us. I think it was a mistake, but it's Comrade Cindy Chikunga, NEC member deployed here in KwaZulu-Natal. Thanks. Those were 5 questions that were asked.
There's the last question I know that we did not respond to. That was asked by, I think it was asked by Neo, about whether the national chairperson will come back to the conference if it does sit. I think it's important to stress the fact that leadership of the African National Congress doesn't just wake up and decide to go to a specific conference. The officials deploys, the SGO deploys officials to a conference, and NEC members are being deployed. Comrade Gwede was deployed here by the SGO. If at the time that the conference sits again, he will be available, he will be deployed again. It will depend at that particular time on who is available and who the SGO needs to deploy. So it will not be up to him to decide whether I come back or not. It is not about in your will or in your own feeling that you, as the ANC leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues. Sorry. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, colleagues.
There's one question that I think is quite critical.
Now, if you take
this one,
you're saying that delegates want the questions now. I want to ask a different question, and that is that, what, in your view, do you think the impact of going into campaign for the general election without a solid leadership will be on the province?
You see, we can't take that question because firstly it has been answered. Secondly, it is unfair, Mr. Mfowethu, there is a facilitator here who is presiding, and having him saying clear that he's closing. We're not running away from engagement. You just impose yourself on the manner in which you do. It would be better if we engage on that issue separately, because if we are open for you, we must open for others. So I think let's respect the process. We are free to take that issue, but outside to this engagement.
No, thank you, comrades. Thank you to the leadership. Colleagues,